Hello viewer, this is Elimu Television. My name is Madam Karihe. I'm taking you through Form 2 CRE. Welcome. In the previous lesson, we started looking at the Old Testament prophecies about the coming of the Messiah. We dealt with Nathan's prophecy about the Messiah. I hope you can recall what Nathan said. Some of the ideas that we brought out included Nathan talked about a great heir or descendant that would be raised from David's house to sit on the throne. Nathan also promised David an everlasting kingdom. Nathan also promised David that his descendants will be free from their enemies and Israel will live in peace, among many others. In today's lesson, we are going to look at Isaiah's prophecy about the Messiah. Like we had mentioned in the earlier lesson, we said that all other prophets in the Old Testament developed their messianic prophecies from Nathan's prophecy. Isaiah developed his prophecy from Nathan's prophecy. We see in this case, Israel was constantly attacked by strong nations like the Assyrians and the Babylonians. And they earnestly looked forward for a time when God would send them a king who would deliver them from their enemies. In other cases, kings that have been chosen in Israel failed to administer justice. Examples of such kings include King Ahab, who led the Israelites into idolatry, and King Solomon, who forced the Israelites into slavery and used high taxation. I hope you can remember the failures of King Ahab and King Solomon. Therefore, the Israelites were always looking forward for a time when God would send them a righteous king from the house of David, one who would administer justice and rule Israel with righteousness. Again, from your Form 1 work, I hope you remember the achievements of King David. And that is why prophets in the Old Testament thought the king who could rule Israel with justice and righteousness was a descendant of David, and so have the qualities of David and take the nation of Israel into greater heights of social, economic, and even spiritual development. The first prophecy of Isaiah is found in Isaiah chapter 7, verse 10 to 16. Isaiah had gone to King Ahaz of Judah to give him a sign of assurance that he will be victorious over the enemies that were about to attack him, and the enemies were Syria and Israel. He gave him this prophecy: "Behold, a young woman shall conceive and bear a son, and you shall call him Emmanuel." The second prophecy of Isaiah about a Messiah is found in Isaiah chapter 9, verse 1 to 7. Here, Isaiah looks forward for the restoration of the kingdom of David under a righteous king who would have the following supernatural titles. He would be a wonderful counselor, a mighty God, everlasting Father, and a Prince of Peace. He would have a great kingdom, and he will rule the kingdom according to God's will, and the kingdom will continue to the end of time. The third prophecy of Isaiah about the coming Messiah is found in Isaiah chapter 61, verse 1 to 2. The prophet here refers to the Messiah as having the Spirit of God, A Messiah who would come to proclaim or to preach the good news to the poor, a Messiah who would restore sight to the blind, a Messiah who would establish or bring in the year of the Lord's favor, which is the year of salvation. The fourth prophecy of Isaiah about the Messiah talks about the suffering servant, and it is found in Isaiah chapter 53. Why do people suffer? Do they suffer always because they have sinned? This chapter, the writer presents a servant who suffers, yet he was innocent. However, through his suffering, salvation is brought to all people. The following are the characteristics of the suffering servant of God. We also call him the suffering servant of Yahweh. 1, he succeeds in his work and is highly honored. 2, he is despised, rejected, and ignored by those who are with him. 3, he has nothing attractive. He is ordinary and simple. 4, he is harshly treated, sentenced to death, and killed. 5, his body is buried with the bodies of the rich. 6, he endures all that is done to him in humble silence, like a lamb taken for slaughter or a sheep taken for shear. 7, he accepts suffering which should have been ours, from Isaiah chapter 53 verse 5, which says, "But he was wounded for our transgressions, he was bruised for our iniquities." 8, through his suffering, human beings have been reconciled to God. 9, it is God's will for the servant to suffer. 10, his death is a sacrifice for the forgiveness of sins. From this reference, we see that it clearly suits in the life of Jesus, who suffered, yet he was innocent, and he suffered for people's sins. And through his suffering, salvation had been achieved to all people. Now, from what we have discussed about the Messianic prophecies, about the Messiah from prophet Isaiah, we can conclude Isaiah's prophecy by summarizing it in the following points. 1, according to Isaiah, the Messiah will be from the house of David. 2, the Messiah will be called Emmanuel, meaning God with us. 3, the Messiah would have supernatural titles like a wonderful counselor, a mighty God, everlasting Father, and a Prince of Peace. 4, he would have an everlasting kingdom. 5, he would be a ruler from the house of David. 6, he would rule with justice. He would rule with righteousness, and in his kingdom there will be peace. 7, he would be humble, he would be simple, he would be without any beauty, he would have nothing attractive. 8, he would be rejected, he would be despised and sentenced to die. 9, he suffers for the forgiveness of sins for all people. 10, it is God's will for the servant to suffer. 11, he succeeds in his work and is highly honored. 12, he will be filled with the Holy Spirit, meaning he will be anointed by God. 13, he will preach good news to the poor, and these are the good news of salvation. And That summarizes the Isaiah's prophecy about the Messiah. Until next time, bye-bye.